Hi, this is the Free Art School where we talk about a long time life as an artist, both practical matters that you've learned the hard way and things that mean the most. And today I have the great pleasure of speaking with Shara Hughes. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yes, very patient because also we did this before and I didn't push record. So
We were just hanging out,
I'm
having,
doubly grateful.
of course.
So that said, like there were some great things that you said last time that I would like to revisit, but then I threw in a new question to the list. The new question is like, what is your family background in terms of relationship to the arts, and how did you find your way to this life?
Yeah. I did not have anyone in my family who are in the arts. My dad was an orthopedic surgeon, and my mom was his nurse. And so, not necessarily that I came from like a medical history of family, but my dad's side is definitely more in the medicine. Um, and I have three older brothers, and none of them are artists. I feel like when I went to art school, they were all like, oh, okay. And then also, my parents were like, oh no, now we have to pay for you for the rest of our life. Okay, let me rewind a little.
Yeah.
So during high school, I had a teacher who noticed I was like taking the assignments a little bit differently than other classmates. And particularly, I remember one assignment, we had to make something 3D. And I think everybody came back with like cardboard sculptures, like literally every single person besides me. And I came back with something in like metals and wood and wire. And I was so embarrassed because it was different. And the teacher pulled me aside and my parents and was like, no, no, this is good. And I just wanted to be like everyone else in middle school, like, the hardest time, you just want to fit in. And that really made a big impact on me for him to like, number one, take me aside and my parents and be like, there's something different. You should like take a closer attention to this. So when I got to high school, I started taking college classes at the Atlanta College of Art, which was downtown. Um, which is now SCAD. But back then it was Atlanta College of Art, and I took these like nighttime drawing classes, and that really encouraged me to like take it more seriously. I applied to some liberal arts colleges in the West, and then I applied to a few art schools. And I was like, if I get into one of these art schools early, then that's a good sign. And so I got into RISD, and so I went there. And I just kind of all like, I don't know, like one step came after the other, and I really didn't know what I was doing. But I had a few teachers in high school that were sort of like encouraging of it, and they kind of had some knowledge about like what an art school was. So once I went to RISD, I mean, me and my parents were both like, I have no clue what we're doing here. um, but I think that like once I started being in the art world a bit more, and they were coming to some of my shows and stuff, like it was all new to everybody. But that being said, like none of us had any background in like I don't even know if we went to like the museum in high school on like field trips and stuff, but it wasn't like I mean, I think growing up in like a really Christian household, like Thomas Kincaid was like the only art book that I had in the house. And it was like I thought it was like amazing, you know, until I learned like a bit more about it. But it's felt a bit more like a learning experience for all of us until like I went to art school and then I like jumped way ahead and started to know more about what this was. But it does still like now I think they get it a bit more, but it's definitely felt like fish out of water for them lots of times. And I remember too, like my friends in high school who I'm still really close with, like none of them are artists either. So for them even coming to a show of mine, they were like, do we need tickets? Like, how much is it?
Yeah.
No, just very sweet, but like I didn't even think that that was something that people would ask about. So in one way, I really like having that like tether to like not knowing so much because then it kind of keeps me not so like in one zone all the time. But it is also like it's the art world's so complicated. And like when it comes to like, auctions and all that kind of other art world stuff that like is confusing, it can be complicated, not just for me, but like even more so explaining it to my family.
Yeah, there's like a whole culture to it that you get sucked into and you learn little by little and you forget like how it needs translation to someone from the outside.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of different tiers inside of our world that
Yes.
are totally different, don't overlap, but have some things in common, which is opaque to the regular population.
Totally. And you're right, like even just the way that like the terms we speak about so easily and like reading art, like even if somebody like if my mom or not just my mom, but like anyone in my family read like an essay in one of my books, it's like, wait, what? What
Right.
are you talking about? These are just landscapes, So I always have to kind of catch myself too on certain words where I'm like saying something so easily, and I'm like, oh, you probably don't know what that means, which
Yeah,
is in every other realm of the world.
yeah, yeah. So after you went to RISD, you were contemplating whether or not to go to master's program and instead went a different route.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was at RISD, I think I won some kind of award to go to Oxbow, which is like a residency in between junior and senior year of college, or that's when I went. And I went, I think it was maybe for a full summer. But it was my first experience with making art at a residency, but also like outside of going to RISD, but like making art in that type of setting around lots of different people from all over. Nobody knew each other. So I feel like when I did that, it really opened my eyes to number one, learning how to like trust myself because whatever I was making at RISD, I could make something completely different at Oxbow. And this was like before Instagram. This is like, 2003. So, um, this is like, nobody was like up in everyone's business before they were anybody. So, it felt like I could really be and do anything. And so learning that I was the only constant in the studio was something I could kind of lean into at these residencies. And I could, if I was making work about something at RISD that everyone sort of like pegged that, oh, she makes those types of paintings, I could do something totally different at Oxbow. And I felt like that was a real learning experience for me because I continued to make that same type of work, but I just realized taking myself out of the context was something to lean into because that's really the only thing I could lean on. I'm never going to be in the school setting forever or at this residency forever. And I do think like RISD did kind of build that up as well, this kind of like self-motivating thing. But all that to say is I fell in love with residencies and I met a lot of great people that I kept in touch with. So after I went to undergrad, I was playing with that idea of like, do I go to grad school? Do I move to New York? I move to LA? At that point, everyone was also moving to Berlin. And I kind of just decided I was going to move home to Atlanta and live at my dad's house, save money, and just kind of do residency to residency for, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 years. And that was really helpful for me because I could, number one, sort of start over every single time and learn more about myself that way than just having the same studio and maybe struggle having a job and trying to figure out time to paint and social and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of used a string of residencies in place of doing, a grad program. And that was really helpful for me. And the biggest part was like the shipping and getting all the work back and like, or destroying it or whatever. But I really am a huge like advocate of doing residencies. Maybe not instead of grad school. Everyone gets their own experience out of that. I don't totally know the best advice on that, but that's just my take on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of debt associated with going to MFA programs, which is can be pretty crushing.
Totally.
And I mean, if you have the opportunity to go home, so it seems like both like a great opportunity to have a family that can do that, but then also probably everybody wonders what you're doing with your life when you're just like
Oh yeah.
hopping for residency and there's a lot of questions.
Yes. Yeah, I had a lot of questions of like, oh, what do you, yeah, are you really doing the artist thing? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying.
Yeah. And sometimes the structure of graduate school, it seems like it's a real thing because you're ending up with a master's degree that you could teach with, and the outside world is then going to have like a name they can put on what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. Most of it, I think at that point was like, you can always be a teacher, and that's why you go to grad school. And I was like, but I don't want to be a teacher. I want to be an artist. I mean, and that's what everyone's goal is at that point. But I did actually get like an adjunct job teaching without getting an MFA, which I thought was interesting. And that solidified that I do not want to be a teacher because it is so hard. It's like, I have so much respect for teachers. It is impossible. So, maybe I should have gotten an MFA if I wanted to do that.
That's a whole other career,
Yeah.
teaching. All right, so I also am daunted by the amount of work that goes into that and how people balance having making artwork and doing that. It's wild.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, so one of my new questions also was a little bit about the Marie Kondo book, and if you'd read it, or if you're this concept of that is if things spark joy, if they don't spark joy, you throw them away. But then, I was trying to translate that into keeping studio materials, and
Mhm.
I had to change it. The genesis of that is decent, but then it had to be about, do I feel guilt about throwing it away? Well, is there future potential? And then we were talking before we started recording about that principle of you don't need the thing until you throw it out. You can keep it for 5 years, and then the minute you toss it, you need it.
Yeah.
And you just moved
I,
studios, so I thought you'd be rich.
yes, yes. Yeah, jumped to want to answer that one, but I also want to add on how and when do you know to keep your own art and like,
Oh yeah.
how much do you keep, and does that bring you joy or sadness or all that same kind of thing? But yes, so I just moved studios like over the past month, and I went through this a lot. Number one, feeling like, where did I get all this stuff? How did I get it into that other studio? And do I need it? And I feel like it's a different story when I'm at my house, unless you ask my husband, who's like, what are you talking about? You never throw anything away. um, but I have such a harder time throwing away art materials. And it's not just like paint or this or that. This is like a piece of um, a carpet that I just lined these new beautiful storage racks with. And I'm like, I might need this tiny square. Like it's on my desk right now. And I'm like, that could be a nice coaster. Like I don't need that, But I think it's like part of this feeling of like, number one, like being trained to be like, I don't have any money. I'm always scrounging for materials, like just from art school days. What if I need this little piece of carpet for an art project? And like I had been, if you order stretchers, if you're a painter, then like a lot of times they come with like little cardboard things for the corners, just to
Yeah.
ship it, bringing them over. And I've always thrown them out. And I started like, no, I've always kept them. And then in like just a box of like cardboard, and then I threw them out. And then I was like, oh my God, now I need these because I want to store them because my corners are getting messed up. And like it's that exact thing that happened where you're like, right when I threw it away, I needed that thing, so I'll never throw anything away again.
Yeah, but
But
I never need them until I toss them, and then I have tossed them
yeah.
to start the cycle.
I know, I know. And it's also one of those things where it's like you get the storage unit for your microwave that's $50 and you're paying $250 for this microwave that you might need one day for if you get a bigger house or whatever. But then you're like paying monthly fees for this stupid microwave that's not going to work at that time when you need it. So it's like what you're spending money on, like these things that you're going to buy new at that point when you really need it. So maybe you skip all that stress and just buy the new thing. So I don't know if I really have an answer for it besides like, yeah, that maybe the sparking joy thing, like, does this piece of carpet spark joy? And like for now, yes, but maybe next week it won't. And also with the art question that I threw in there, I was like, when I was going through everything as I was moving, I was like, God, I have so many of these. Like, if you do print projects, you get all your APs and you get all these tests, and maybe like, do I need all of these? Do I need 25 posters? I'm not going to frame 25 posters from a show I had. Why don't I just be giving these things away? So then it's like, do you save stuff for your archive? How much do you save? And then also, I had a period of time where I didn't save some of my older paintings, and I regret that like so deeply. And so like then I'm like, okay, I want to save something like at least X amount of number per year, or like one per show once a year or something like that, just so that I build up my own collection. I think that's like really, really important. And my husband, who's also an artist, he is always trying to throw his art away from the past. And I'm always like, no, 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 please don't. And he has like stacks and stacks of stuff like from art school days. And I'm the one who's like, don't throw that away. What about your retrospective? It's always that idea of like, we're all getting this retrospective at some point, and we need our figure drawings from fourth grade to show that we had it. We just had it at such a young age. We're so talented, which is like so stupid. I mean, some of it is and some of it isn't, but like there should be a limit, is I guess like probably the rule.
I did a talk for undergrads at Rutgers a couple weeks ago, and I put in some college images of college artwork into the slideshow, and it was like,
Okay.
hey,
Yeah.
when I was your age.
Yeah. Did you have to find your old actual slides?
Because I have photo-based practice, I kind of have a lot of pictures in my hard film pictures and prints and whatnot. It's a little
Okay. Okay.
documentation heavy.
Yeah. That's the pro side, upside of your professional life.
Yeah, and I also don't throw a lot of art materials away or art made things because
Yeah.
I am thinking about them. My opinion may change over time.
Yeah. No, I think keep them.
Oh, but okay, this is what my Marie Kondo patch, I bet, is if I am only thinking about the amount of money that, like, if you find, like, I don't know, a bunch of modeling wire that would have cost $80 on the
Yeah.
sidewalk, and you hold on to it because you're like, oh, but it would have cost $80.
Yeah.
I've had it for 6 years and I haven't used it, so maybe I'm gonna put it out back into the world to someone who actually needs this.
Okay, yeah, like a recycling, not
Yeah.
just there is that some of the guilt of like throwing stuff away in
Yeah, if you're
you,
in an
but
art building though, you can there's a
yeah,
moment that's very easy. But even just the sidewalk is actually only if I'm being greedy about like I would have spent $80.
yeah.
I guess I didn't need it
I know.
though. So
Yeah.
if I'm doing that, then I let it go. It's not the sparking joy because all art materials are like, I mean, I could, you never know.
Yeah. No, but I think that goes back to my like ingrained feeling of like I'm always poor and searching for art materials from this like art school feeling
Yeah.
that if I get rid of this pile of wood behind me, like I'm like, that's money. That's just throwing away money, But is that bringing me like, am I distracted with my like, how like Marie Kondo is kind of like, this is all giving you like visual clutter, and you're not as efficient in your life if you have that visual clutter.
Yeah, or if you're just like you have to keep track of it and stack it over here and move it over here to make space for this. And then it's like draining your mind of energy that's probably better spent on a more productive project.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like a burden, not a benefit, not an opportunity.
That's true. That's true. Although I do kind of enjoy like after I finish a painting, like moving, like tinkering for like a few days.
Hmm. Ooh, what do you mean?
Like if I'm like getting to the end of a painting and I don't want to like pay it that much attention because I'm not sure like where we are in our relationship, like I want to like clean up or like move things around on my desk and
Yeah.
like maybe I'll reorganize my storage or kind of like I need the energy to come out, but I shouldn't be touching the painting because it's like really close and I could kill it otherwise. So there's sometimes I like having those like busy work to do so that I feel like I'm getting work done as I'm like subconsciously wondering if the painting's finished or like, you know.
Yeah, that's actually really an important thing. It's like letting things settle in your mind, like when to take a break, how to
Hmm.
come back, which one of my other questions was, it's a whole cluster. It's like when you're young, how do you, what, and you don't know what the first step is, or when you have too many options and you need to narrow them down and focus. And one of the ways to do that is to step away. But then,
Yeah.
and then warming, how do you warm back up? Or do you wait for a, I mean, it's just sort of, I'm describing my question, but you already gave the answer. But I
Yeah.
think the really big topic is like, yeah, you need clarity more than anything.
Yeah. And it's hard to know when to be in the room to get that final touch or like the end of something or when to like give it space and walk away. And do you need to be available or do you need to like literally like leave town for a few days and come back? I'm sure it's different for everybody. And I think that like the way that you figured out for yourself is probably just by like making the mistakes and then being like, well, that didn't work. Like, I should always leave the studio by this amount of time because I never make good decisions after that. Or like maybe I do need to push through and that's like where I get the finishing touch or whatever. For me, it was about making a lot of mistakes. And I think I will probably continue to make mistakes and then change.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is you never really know, and each case is slightly different. So you just gotta like
Yeah.
sniff it
Yeah.
out. That does also bleed into the self-care topic, especially
Yeah.
after you are in between shows right now, you said.
Yes. Yes. So I'm in a, very exciting time, but it's a lot. I just opened a show in New York, that's down now. And so gallery show, and then I have a museum show opening next week. So there's about like a month in between there where, well, actually probably 2 months where like I am definitely a workaholic and I love it. But it's really weird when you put up a show and you have your show up. Do
Yeah.
you continue to work? And then especially if you have something right afterwards. And the difference between like gallery and museum is really different too. I have not
Can you
really been working.
explain some of the differences, like working wise with the gallery museum?
Well,
More.
like with gallery shows, it's like, depending on how you work, but like it's pretty much like you come up with the idea, everything's new, everything's for sale. And that also varies, just to throw that out there. But it's a different kind of energy and I guess both are getting reviews in lots of ways, but there's a different feeling of that. And it's like usually new work. And it's usually like this is what I'm making right now, and I'm believing this right now. And same with museum shows, but like for instance, my museum show opening next week is like work back from like 2009 up into the present. So there's a lot of different loans and paperwork and discussions and essays and books and stuff like that that go along with it. So it's a different type of feeling and not much new work in it. So you're not like, you have to kind of prepare yourself in like a larger like rubber band stretch than like the gallery. It's just a different, if that makes sense. So like having that just happened and then now I have to kind of twist into this other feeling of like now I have to go back into my like, you know, back to 2009 to remember what those paintings were about and get into that zone and like sum up my life all in one show. It is exhausting and exciting at the same time, but there's a lot of like physical and mental kind of like activity going on. And so during that time, I'm like, I have no idea how to make work, even though that's how I release a lot of this kind of like stress and energy is always through my paintings. So what do I do when I'm not painting? And kind of like in between these times. So thank God I'm moved because that was a lot of work and that kind of kept me busy.
A lot going
Um,
on at once.
it was a lot. Yeah, it's been a lot. But as I've gotten older, I think there's a lot of like self-care with like exercise and like just maintenance that feels like it could feel like a pampering if you're doing like a massage, but it's also like really practical in the same way. And like I try to exercise most every morning to kind of get me in like my body kind of like ready for the day, but also like will calm my mind down. So I think that like that helps as I've gotten older. And when I can't make paintings, I'm either doing this like tinkering thing, like moving things around, or like I'm going to reorganize my closet, or like let's throw things out. Let's deep clean the windows. Or if I don't have all of those things, then I'm like doing a puzzle or doing a coloring book, like basically like children's activities.
Those seem like the activities that link your unconscious mind with your hands.
Yeah, yeah. And it keeps me not really like a phone. I don't have like a phone addiction that much, but like keeps me off that stuff that like I'll just like, subconsciously grab my phone and like, like we all do kind of scroll. But if I'm doing a puzzle, I can like think of things, but also my hands are busy and I'm like, I do get like a little obsessive over it. So I'm like stuck at this table for like hours being like, I have to finish this. My eyes are bleeding, but I will not go to bed. But it's also really satisfying. So like just other kind of like hobbies and things like that I find help me kind of wind down in a way that like keeps my mind and hands busy and my
Yeah.
body busy, I guess, if I'm like exercising.
Yeah, I think having a drop off of nothing is really dangerous after a huge project.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I think a lot of people get the like post show depression.
yeah,
And that's not even just like when your show comes down, it's like after the opening.
yeah. I had like the first time I had a show, I felt like the gallery was my best friends, and then immediately after it opened, they had to start paying attention to the next artist. And
Oh, yeah. They forget about your ass. They're like, next.
yeah, I'm like, oh, I get it. There's three things I have on our list that was like dealing with insulting comments,
Hmm.
slightly related, dealing with a distressing email, and then third, the what someone told you, don't be ugly.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So insulting comments, I feel like this also might tie back into one of our first questions from the last interview about like rejection
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Similarly, I feel like you're the only one who really knows the answers and like what the work is really about. So if it hurts you super bad, then maybe there's something to look at there. And if it doesn't hurt you really bad, then like who cares in some way or another? I definitely think that like we are sensitive people and like insulting comments do really hurt. And it like, especially right when you like read it or hear it. But I think I've just built up, I mean, I have three older brothers. So I think I built up like a thick skin to like being bullied in lots of ways that I'm like, whatever, you are, But like, it hurts if somebody, and not everyone's gonna like your work. I'm totally agree. It's me. I sometimes don't like my own work, so I agree. But it, of course, like these are things that we deeply, deeply care about, and so if somebody is trying to insult you, then it can hurt for sure. So like, I think it's comes back to like what you truly believe and building a thick skin and like especially with rejection and disappointment, that's going to continue to happen. Like I'm always dealing with that stuff and I have before. It's at different levels and like the ones that happened, you know, in my college years feel the same as what happens now, even though it doesn't, it's completely different. So I think it's more just like kind of getting used to it and like, making art is like a series of disappointments until you get it right for the moment. So in some way it's sort of like, of course, like isn't this exciting? This is like the point of like we're never really going to get it right. So if you could see it more of like an adventure, the insulting comments are a different feeling, but like rejection and disappointment, I feel like if you could see it as sort of like a that sucks and it hurts and like why do I never get this and this person gets that kind of thing, try to get out of that. And I think maybe that gets easier with age.
Do you do like have a ritual for like, I am going to get myself the most expensive coffee today?
Oh, like rewards. Yeah.
Yeah, to like I spent weeks and weeks and weeks on a grant application and then didn't get it. So then I'm gonna buy, or I don't know, do what
Yeah. Go
some
out
kind of
to
one
eat.
nice thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Or like buy a new shirt or something. Yeah. I do rewards like every day, basically.
Or just like, yeah, those other non-buying rewards, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the last time I got a really insulting thing, I just go and I talk to a friend that I really like, and then that friend will usually make fun of that insult.
Oh, love that. That's like the best. If you could find somebody that like number one joins you on your like anger,
Yeah.
then you could like turn it into comedy. That's the best because then you can like have an outlet for, you know, no, you are. And then you start laughing about it, and then it kind of minimizes the power.
Yeah, and bonding with a friend. I mean, cultivating friends you can really trust
Yeah,
is seems like one of the most important
yeah,
management.
definitely.
Oh, who told you don't be ugly?
Oh, I think that's a thing people say in the South.
Mm.
And it might not just be the South, but like I said it to my friends from high school because like I was feeling like making really like rageful paintings and that phrase came in my head and it was like don't be ugly like as like a woman being like that's the worst thing to be is ugly. And it's like if you act ugly or if you like say, you know, a bad word, like that's being ugly. And
Mm.
like that's also an expression of like being upset or angry, but it's like it looks ugly as like a woman to act that way. And so like yeah, it's gross.
Yeah. I mean,
But like,
suppressing feelings is gross, but
yeah,
being
turning
thoughtful of
it
other
into like
people.
also feeling like it's how you look when you express.
Yeah, that part's vomit.
Yeah.
But the part about like not hurting other people with your sentiments, that seems like there's some another, divorced from that other misogynist take. But
Yeah.
uh,
It was a phrase that popped into my head when I was making these like rageful paintings and it like I was laughing at it
mm.
at the same time being like, why the fuck was that something that like and I said it to my friends from the South and they're like, oh, my parents said that to me all the time. Like, don't be ugly,
Oh,
I know.
oh gosh, the first time you said it, I thought it was a way of being like considerate. And then the more we talk about it, the more bummed out I am.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Don't be ugly. It's like that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, we didn't get to the responding to the distressing email.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think the best thing I've and again learned from mistakes, don't respond right away. Talk to a friend.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and like, I think what's helpful to do is like start a new email with nobody on the sender on the to list.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Get it
and
out.
yeah, write it out. Make so many different versions of it. Send it to a friend, whether or not you want them to like edit it or not, but like don't send your reaction because it might be ugly. Just kidding. No, it just, again, like we're sensitive people. And so, like, their reaction can feel larger and, like, might have a worse impact than, like, taking a breath and, like, getting it out in a different way, going for a walk. Like, maybe take a few days. Like, nothing is, I mean, I don't want to say this, but nothing's that urgent or it shouldn't feel that urgent to where you have to like respond in a way that you might regret, even though it might feel amazing to just send that terrible email back.
Fire hose.
Yeah, it's probably not great. So like take a breath, take a walk around the block for a few days if you need to. And help somebody, like, yeah, talk to somebody about it and get their help. Because I feel like sometimes I'll respond in a way that's like really from like a guttural place. And maybe I write like a really short email, but it feels louder and larger.
Mhm.
Um, and so like if I get somebody to like check how that felt reading it, like that's a good like mirror of like, oh yeah, that was kind of like not that nice, or like that's a little too short.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, waiting is always the best advice on something. It's so easy to misunderstand the tone of a digital written communication
yeah,
when you're receiving it, and maybe someone doesn't have bad intentions, but they are also not able. It is so different than an in-person communication. So give it some, let it settle. Don't always go with your first
yeah,
reaction.
yeah,
Most people have good intentions. Not all, most.
yeah, yeah, believe that. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Most people do have good intentions.
I really appreciate you doing this
Of
uh,
course.
a lot, and
Thanks.
check back in a couple of years, hopefully.